This episode is brought to you by Farmers Insurance.
A new model of relationship is being born, a model that is not based on a Western template, a system that works to enrich the elite, the chosen billion, but all humanity, all of the functioning and developing multipolar world.
President Putin praises the trend of more countries choosing their sovereign interests over the Western mold in his speech at the 8th Eastern Economic Forum. Russian investigators arrive at the scene after a passenger plane makes an emergency landing in the Novosibirsk region.
We're very glad that we're all here, alive. We're very grateful to the crew for their professionalism.
Thanks to the professionalism of the pilots, it was possible to avoid serious consequences in the plane crash.
Dust storms emerged more than 2 decades ago in Iran following the onset of persistent droughts in the country. One part of the phenomenon has to do with the expanding desertification of Iran. Experts say 70% of the crisis emanates from non-domestic sources.
And Iran hosts a summit to tackle the challenges of sandstorms in the region, which are destroying agriculture and damaging industries.
Jaguar delivers that thrill every day. The F-Pace, how Jaguar makes an SUV.
Will Turkey ratify Sweden's NATO membership? Stockholm says it can't fulfill all Ankara's demands. As the bloc's membership requires unanimous approval, what would make Turkey change its mind? And what does all of this mean for NATO's future? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Mohammed Jamjoom. One of the many fallouts of Russia's invasion of Ukraine has been that previously neutral Nordic countries
So setting off here in the 2023 Integra. So the first thing you notice about this, well, you have a really nice low seat.
Before you can learn how to do something, you have to learn and be a beginner, no matter what the sport is, whether it's sport bike riding, dirt bike riding, cooking, it doesn't matter. And here at Double R Fest, helping people understand the dynamic of motorcycle riding is absolutely key, because like we said many times now, safety and fun are the priority for us. So beginner group is good for sport motorcycle riders who don't have a lot of seat time on their sport bike, aren't necessarily familiar with the practices of sport bike riding at a closed course like we are riding here at Circuit of the Americas. This gentleman in front of us is riding an MV Agusta F3800. How do I know that? Because I've ridden that bike a million times and I just know. Like we said before, Double R Fest is open to all makes and models of sport bike vehicles. We even saw a Ducati Multistrada out there yesterday. And you can see this guy, for a beginner, is doing pretty dang good. He's got good line selection, his body position's decent. and he is riding smoothly. We are going to make a pass on this gentleman here and then see if we can find any instructors doing their thing. So let's give her the beans one more time. Hey, I backshifted her. Sorry, engine. My God. I don't know what happened. I'm such a squid. Sorry, 999 CCI4. Really impressed with what a difference that DMP fork setting adjustment did. Here's the big bump. Gotta be ready for that. There's a double R Fest track day instructor ahead of those two riders in front of us. Now it's nice following an instructor because line selection, especially at a big circuit, like Circuit of the Americas, isn't the easiest. There's so many turns. There's 20 turns here. There's a lot to remember. And the racetrack is ultra wide. And that's what the instructor is doing here. Trying to assist with line selection. They will also come up behind you and see how you are operating the vehicle in an effort to give you some guidance on body position, lean angle, where the vehicle is at different points of the track. There is Grant Lopez, the multi-time road racing champ from back in the day, who's also an American hero who neutralized the active shooter in Florida at the military base a few years ago. That guy is just awesome. Super modest, super talented. He is an active duty sheriff in Pensacola, Florida. He rides for work as a motor policeman, a BMW RT 1250. RT 1250. I'm sorry, RT-P 1250. I've actually ridden that motorcycle in stock and police configuration, and it is just an awesome motorcycle. I don't know why more law enforcement agencies don't use the RTP bike, because it comes outfitted from BMW with all of the wiring and all of the necessary accessories you need to configure that bike for law enforcement duty. The other bikes, like Harley-Davidsons and even the Hondas, do not come from the factory with the wiring and that setup. You have to wire it in and customize it. And as most people know, nothing is better than OE factory in terms of testing and durability. There goes Grant. He's going to help show this Panigale V4 motorcycle rider. Oh, he's on a Superleggera, I think. My gosh. How to better pick his lines. That guy's on a Superleggera. That thing looks sick. Well, folks, that is a little taste of what you can get at BMW Motorrad's Double R Fest. Make sure to log on to current track days to learn more. See when the next Double R Fest is coming to your circuit. And thanks for riding with us today. We are going to let the big dog eat right now. Oh yeah, this never gets old. It never, ever gets old.
Now let's take it to the booth.
It's almost like a dirt bike section through here where you keep the bike almost upright and you move your body from left to right like you're riding a motorbike. That's what the S's almost feels like you need to do to really have a good line selection. I'm horrible through there, but maybe one day I'll get less horrible. I like to run it in 1 or 2. It gives me a good safety net. When I get more comfortable with the vehicle and with the bike, I can lower that setting and it will allow for more wheel spin, but I haven't been riding these sport bikes that much lately and my physical fitness is just way off. I just don't feel comfortable right now, so that is why I am operating the bike in this setting. Here we go, guys. Nice clear track through the S's. God, I love how maneuverable this bike is. It is insane how agile this thing is. Every time I go through that section, I'm just like, jeez, how is this bike so agile? You can see the DTC light coming in when DTC starts activating on this vehicle. And away we go, guys. We're gonna gradually warm up and start giving her more beans. More beans. I love the beans. Give me more beans. Alright. Big dog zone. Engage, big dog. Time to eat. What's for dinner? Beans. That's what's for dinner. Oh, folks. But they held it on pretty nicely. Again, courtesy and respect is the name of the game at these track days. And I just love Circuit of the Americas. A lot of my colleagues and friends don't like this track, but I love the stop and go nature of it. It's fun. I love braking, I love accelerating on sport bikes. And that's what this track's all about. Big braking zones, big acceleration zones. This big sweeping right is a blast too. Let's see if we can get that lean angle a little higher. 51 still. It's just amazing how responsive this motorcycle is. Just the whole synchronization of the controls. This bike is it's really easy to ride. And the level of adjustability that this motorcycle has, you can really turn it from mild to wild with a few swipes of the thumb wheel. It's awesome. This bike has so much adjustability in it that you can easily be a newbie rider and purchase this motorcycle. There was a BMW current track day coach helping that rider with his riding technique. Riding these sport bikes at the circuit is very specialized. Most people haven't grown up riding these bikes in a competition setting, and the track day instructors here at Double R Fest really help you sharpen your skill set and become a safer, more capable sport bike rider. And that's what it's all about. Safety first. Safety and fun first. Again, the extra engine braking this vehicle offers really helps me right now. My braking ability is just off. And I just love having that little bit of electronic assist engine brake just makes my life easier. Once we get more proficient with the braking, we can go to a reduced engine brake setting. Now earlier I rode the motorcycle with a DMP, the fork setting at a much lower level. I think it was 7. And the motorcycle was downright unrideable at that setting. It just had so much forward pitch. And that's why I like this DDC. Although its actual feel, it's not the best in my opinion, the level of adjustability is very high, and it goes from mild to wild very easily. And in its maximum setting, I have good vehicle feel, or good feel, and I can ride the motorcycle much better than I could in a lower setting. It's really amazing what these technologically advanced vehicles like the S1000RR have become. There is so much adjustability that's insane. But before, when you had to fit different points, adjust things with a screwdriver, do all this kind of testing and research, these bikes just come from the factory, just dialed in. It's crazy. $22,200 as tested for this S1000RR. And I for sure would buy one of these bikes. They represent good value in the superbike class. They come with a 3-year, 36,000 mile manufacturer's warranty with roadside assistance. These vehicles are built in Germany. The fit and finish is just insane. And the maintenance intervals are few and far between. These are excellent bikes. I would throw on some different tires, and I would throw on the Lloyd's Performance Reflash, and away we would go. We would be off to the races, quite literally. Alright, letter E corner. Oh, I love this straightaway. I love holding the line. It's one of the greatest feelings on earth. One big dog eat and feeling the force of the S1000. Oh, yes. What a bike. How fun is this? This is about as much fun as you can have with your leather suit on. Good job, BMW Motorrad and Current Track Days. Alright folks, here we go. Gonna do a quick check behind, make sure there's no traffic, and there isn't, thank goodness. And here we go on the COTA surface. Entering this track is always kind of sketchy to me because you have to round that first turn and make sure you're not in anyone's way. And away we go, guys. This is the S's section of COTA. This section of the track requires a motorcycle that is extremely light and maneuverable feeling. Thank God this double R is just that. One of the things that I really love about this bike is just how agile it is. It's extremely agile in terms of its handling from left to right and vice versa. These carbon fiber wheels really do make a huge difference in the amount of maneuverability this bike has. A big high point of navigating a bike like this through the S's. Alright, now we're going to upshift in the third big bump right there. When we started riding this bike in 2013, riding this circuit in 2013 during the Ducati Panigale 1299R launch. That bump was not there. Over the years, this circuit's developed some bumps. Motorcycle, I love the ergonomics on it. It is very, very comfortable. The adjustable rear sets are an excellent addition. I love the ability to tweak the either foot position. Oh God, this bike eats. I love this bike. The reason why that these S and M1000RRs are so cool is because they just have so much character and charisma. These bikes are loaded with character. When you get the engine revving north of 10,000 RPM, you gotta hang the frick on. These things bone out. Nice. Love how light this motorcycle feels. Just north of 420 pounds with a full 4.4 gallons of fuel. And this thing feels even lighter than the spec chart insinuates. There is the super stock champ, Corey Alexander. Nice, let's put a move on him. Nice, dude. Putting a move on him. Another neat feature about this M1000RR that we didn't mention in our little preview commentary is the taller windscreen. I love tall windscreens. Tall windscreens are a big benefit for you tall motorcycle riders out there. Now this M1000RR we're operating has the optional torque map installed. The optional torque map removes the curious second and third gear torque limitation that standard S1000RRs are subject to. The torque map really lets you get a feel for this power band because it allows it to make maximum torque. On the flip side though, the engine is limited in terms of its horsepower. Peak horsepower is well less than what BMW claims. BMW claims these things are good for 205 horsepower, but in US configuration, the best we've ever seen is around 180. And that's with the horsepower map installed. And that's at the business end of the rear tire. I kind of blew it there, boys and girls. I should have downshift. God, I love the handling on this bike. That reduced offset and relaxed rake. The bike just feels less twitchy. This is the intermediate group here at Double R Fest. And that is Travis Wyman, I believe, up in front, who's giving some introductory laps to this woman rider right here. She is operating a BMW R19. We will follow them before we give them a little pass here on the straightaway area right here. Keep things safe and keep things nice. God, I love that quick shifter. It just makes it so easy to downshift through the gears. Oh yeah, let her eat, baby. These bikes eat. If there was one negative thing I'd have to say about this engine, it's the only one negative thing that I've always really thought about this engine ever since it came out for the 2010 model year in the US, and that's just it vibrates like crazy. These engines have giddy, but they vibrate. My God, they vibrate. But what do you expect for a motorcycle that makes 180 horsepower at the business end of the tire? Electronics, oh yeah, Electronics allow this motorcycle to go from mild to wild with a push of a button. It's interesting because you really have to spend some time at the controls of this vehicle to really understand what you want to set the rider aids to. These vehicles have an insane amount of adjustability just in terms of electronics. Obviously there's a ton of adjustability in the mechanical aspects of the motorcycle via suspension adjustment, swing arm pivot adjustment, the swing arm linkage adjustment. But just swiping some buttons will net a vastly different motorcycle. Yes. I love these bikes. Talk about exhilaration. I also really like that you're able to adjust the DTC in real time with the handlebar mounted switchgear that lets you dial in more or less wheel spin for the conditions or your experience level. It's really neat. Professional grade riders on used tires on a warm day, they will certainly like the ability to tweak that. Whoa, what's this guy doing? I love this big deep bowl here at Chuckwalla Valley Raceway. It just makes riding so fun. The brakes on this M1000RR, they're not that much different feeling from the traditional bike, but that extra bit of width definitely will help in terms of heat dissipation. Obviously, it's a cool day out, and here at Chuckwalla Valley Raceway, we don't really have any super deep braking zones. This place is generally pretty mellow on the brakes. It's more of a momentum-based racing circuit. So you're never really on the brakes that hard here, but that's okay. It's cool that BMW is making the bikes more and more up-spec for the most demanding track riders and racers. God, this bike feels so good at lean. Yes! We are just riding around at a very mellow pace. These bikes require a lot of skill and time to really understand. Ooh, checkered flag for this B group. Yes. This is a BMW Motorrad instructor in front of us. Let's pass him. Yeah. Well, maybe not. And the great thing about Chuckwalla Valley Raceways is just a really safe and mellow track to ride at. A lot of runoff room, track's nice and wide, grip is very elevated here, and it's just a nice place to ride a high-performance motorcycle like the M1000RR here. Those carbon fiber wheels, I know that you can get them on the standard S1000RR, but gosh, they're just awesome. They're absolutely awesome. They make this motorcycle feel so maneuverable. I remember when we rode this bike at the Circuit of the Americas during Double R Fest in Texas. I couldn't believe how maneuverable this bike was through the S's. That was where the carbon fiber wheels really paid a big dividend. If you haven't checked out that content, make sure to check it out on our Motorcyclist Mag YouTube channel in 4K Premium, of course. I can't say I feel the downforce right now, but it's nice knowing it's there. These Pirelli Diablo SPV3 tires, they heat up so quick. It's worth noting that this bike comes equipped with a 200 section rear tire. These Superbike tires keep getting wider, keep getting taller, improving to be able to keep up with the crazy amount of power that these bikes are capable of delivering. This torque map really makes this bike so much more pleasing to ride. If I had to choose between the horsepower and the torque map, I would absolutely go with the torque map. It just makes the motorcycle feel like it's supposed to out of the showroom box. I know it's silly to spend 24 grand for the standard S1000RR in M specification, and then $37,000 for this M1000RR, and not have full access to the power. But that's just the way it goes. I absolutely would spend the money on the torque reflash. And if you didn't want to do it from the factory, Lloyd's Performance in Texas is also a worthy option. Wow, this guy spanked me. I gotta step up. Yeah. Doesn't matter though, because we're still having fun. Any day in the saddle is a good day in our book. Really like the cockpit of this bike. This bike is very easy to move around for a 6-foot-tall rider. BMW's always done a good job of considering the tall person, the tall rider, and making these bikes tall rider friendly. Of course, it's a little bit more compact than its predecessor, but not overly so. God, I love the brakes on this bike. I love the way the slipper clutch actuates too. It's super smooth. You can almost kind of feel it kick in right when you get to the apex. That thing's revving up way too much for me. The great thing about these quick shifters is you just press down or up on the quick shifter and away you go into the next cog. Now, the good thing about this double R-Fest is you have less full riding groups. We're riding in the advanced group right now, which is limited to 20 riders. Each group only has 20 riders, which is a lot less than a typical track day here at Circuit of the Americas. $600 to participate. $600 gets you in, which is a little bit more, but considering that you don't have any other people that you have to contend with when you're riding, I think it's totally worth it. God, I love this bike. Now, there are 8 instructors right now here at this track day. Normally there's 11, but only 8 due to COVID-19 pandemic and people's instructors are just excellent. The main host is Nate Kern, who's a multi-time road racing champ, who's also...
The area has done much to keep tensions low, like ensuring freedom of movement along the Lachin corridor, which connects mainland Armenia with the territory of Nagorno-Karabakh.
That's volume at 14. Let's get some volume.
So setting off here in the 2023 Integra. So the first thing you notice about this, well, you have a really nice low seat. You notice a little bit that it still is a dual clutch. This car runs the 7-speed dual clutch automatic, and you know, whenever you're inching up, every once in a while you can feel that it's kind of grabbing a tiny bit, but it's very smooth with the inching up. It's just, if you're someone who knows cars, you can definitely, the first time you pull away in this, be like, yeah, that's a dual clutch. But it's one of the best dual clutches out there as far as smoothness goes. No complaints whatsoever. Other things that I really like about the S3 here, you have excellent visibility. So you have nice skinny A-pillars here, and still a nice good view out of the sides and great view out of the back, even though this is a smaller vehicle. The dashboard doesn't feel too long or anything either, so it just feels nice and compact, which is what you want in a vehicle this small. And so it feels great from that standpoint. Other things here, nice and aggressive throttle response, even here in just the normal auto standard mode. Just a little tip into the gas and you get some nice forward movement. And you do get a good amount of brake action here right as soon as you lean on the brakes, but it's not a ton of bite, and I wish there was a little bit more feel to them. I mean, they still feel pretty strong, and this one having the Sport package, that also gives you slightly upgraded brakes over the regular S3. So they're plenty strong. It's just that, you know, I wish there was a little more feeling there, but I'll continue to test that here during my week of driving. But other things here that I really like, so you have a nice and natural feeling steering weight. It's, at least here in the normal mode, it's not trying to be, you know, overly aggressive or anything, but you can of course change all that with the different drive modes, and there's also an individual mode. So if you want to custom tailor the engine response, the steering, you know, all those types of things, you can dial all that in along with the adaptive damper settings as well. So you can have that stiffer or softer. This one also does have that sport suspension as part of that S Sport package as well. Yeah, and you know, just cruising around here, you know, 2,000, 2,500 RPMs.
220 kilometers an hour. Wow. So that was something. Lane change here, high speed at 200 kilometers an hour. Let's go back again. Wow. So flawless, so smooth. Amazing. And this all-wheel drive is putting that power on the ground also so evenly. So what a harsh acceleration on the one hand, but how smooth on the other hand. I'm already feeling like being on Nürburgring Nordschleife here, and I mean, driving 200 kilometers an hour with this car feels like nothing. Now, hard on brakes from 200 to 100.
Let's get back to the music.
It wasn't even so hard on the brakes, but so precise, so good in the control. And at any time you can release this RS mode here directly on the steering wheel. Don't have to do anything in the menu. Going a little bit calmer, setting the cruise control, setting the driver assist, and yeah, let's relax here on the motorway, no problem. Sound-wise, I mean, there was a nice, decent sound, but you already heard that this car is not exaggerating things. It's not to be out like this poser vehicle. It's still supposed to be an elegant sports car. So you've seen that on the exterior design, and that's also the case then here for everything else. RS2 mode again, because we are in the tunnel. Here you can also see more of that ambient lighting while driving. Here. Also a beautiful job. And this is the point to turn down the window. Shifting down with the pedals here. Couldn't hear too much actually, so I think you also on camera might rather heard wind noise than the sound. Of course, you hear a little bit more sound when you're driving a little bit slower. But yet again, you know, especially here in Europe where we have the particle filters for the petrol engines, the sound has been reduced. Although this is the optional sports exhaust already. You know, standard sport exhaust and then the optional sports exhaust.
But let's turn down onto this back road here and see how it does. Here we go. All right, took it a second. Wow. Yeah, and then it takes off very nicely. Yeah. And it sounds good too. You know, it doesn't sound like super artificial or anything. It just sounds good and strong. Maybe a little too muscular for a 4-cylinder, but I love it. I'm digging it, so that sounds great to me. Anyway, so the S3 here runs the 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. In this application, it now does 306 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. So that is about 18 more horsepower than before, which is great. but it is worth noting that the 2022 Golf R does 9 more horsepower than even this out of basically the same engine. I'm not sure why they didn't give it that same amount of power as the Golf R at least. I'm not sure what the hold up was with that, but I mean it's only 9 horsepower, not a big deal. These things are still plenty fast. The official quoted time is a 4.5 seconds 0 to 60. Car and Driver actually managed to get a 4.3 seconds 0 to 60. So I mean, still plenty fast, and that's partially thanks to the wonders of this dual clutch automatic, which really maximizes everything. So this car is way quicker in a straight line than it honestly should feel for as much power as it has. And we can go ahead and start using the paddle shifters here, see how it does in manual mode. Yeah, pretty responsive. Yeah, downshifts are immediate. Upshifts are really right there. I mean, it is right towards the top of the pack as far as the shift speeds here. Yes. Oh, there's a little crackling burble out of the exhaust in the back that I heard there for a split second. Oh, now that's a really loud one. Did you hear that? That's hilarious.
What time is it?
Won't do it in first, but it did do it in second there. Oh, I'm excited to see if there's some more of that, because that is definitely louder than the Golf R that I just tested not too long ago. Another acceleration manual mode. This thing, I like this a lot. Anyway, we're coming up some corners here that I always take. Let's see how the S3 handles. Okay, so it is worth noting this one is on winter tires, unfortunately, even though I'm filming this in March, and it's about 50 degrees outside, so not optimal conditions here for tires here. So they're the Continental Viking Contact, and so yeah, that's going to compromise, how I'm able to test the handling here of this, unfortunately, which is kind of hilarious considering the Golf R that I just had a couple months back to test in the actual winter, that was on summer tires. So anyway, the handling felt really good there. So the one big thing here with this in the Golf R is the Golf R has a torque vectoring rear diff. I love the crackles, that's awesome. This does not have the torque vectoring rear diff. It has the standard Haldex all-wheel drive system instead. So, not as fancy, but it still handles itself really well. I also like the dynamic mode. It doesn't have super heavy steering. It still feels very eager to dive in. I do feel, yeah, the steering is definitely less sharp because of these tires. It is a little squirmier. It still handles itself very well though, partially because it's just a nice small car, also partially because it's a pretty light car still, especially one with all-wheel drive. I mean, these only weigh just under 3,600 pounds. I think it's like 3,573 is what Car and Driver got, and Audi themselves actually quote something around, I think, 3,531 for the curb weight. So nice and, pretty light, all things considered. And I'm going to do an actual launch here, try and do one. Manual shifts, man. This thing is so quick. And one other interesting thing that I actually discovered here just a second ago was that whenever you're in sport mode and you have the transmission in fully automatic, even in the dynamic setting, it will not do the crackles and pops as consistently as it does in manual mode. Like I was sitting at like 3 grand and I would hit the gas and then let off, and doing the same exact thing in automatic mode, no crackles and pops, and then in manual mode, it's so loud that at one point I actually cracked up because it's like hilarious, and it gave me the loudest bang, and there was traffic all around me, and it was kind of hilarious. But yeah, this thing is quick though, and it's interesting. If I put my foot to the floor instead of just staying in the one gear though, it will go ahead and give me a downshift. So it doesn't look like it's fully manual control, but you can still play around a good bit. Those crackles and pops. I know it's so juvenile, but it just adds fun, and I'm all about extra fun in cars. Yeah, this thing, it sounds really good. Honestly, it sounds better than the Golf R in my opinion. Yeah, I love this dual clutch too. I had the manual in the Golf R that I reviewed, but yeah, I'm a big fan of this dual clutch. It feels fantastic, and especially with how good the manual shifts are. Every car I've ever owned has been a manual, but I would not miss the manual one bit. I think that this dual clutch is fantastic. But another acceleration here. Yeah, this thing, even on snow tires though, it feels plenty dynamic to me.
Yet again, it gives you enough resistance that it doesn't feel unnatural. So this is a very progressive setup that you don't have to steer that much. See here, usually you are steering the angle of the curve, and that's really very well done. So I think what Audi has done here, and also with their normal versions, not only necessarily with their sport versions, they have one of the best steering setups where they really have a very progressive one. You can keep your hands at the steering wheel all the time, don't have to grab around most of the time. It's feeling very direct and sporty, yet it's comfortable, and it still feels natural. They directly hit the spot for that, you know. For example, with Mercedes, you have to steer more. It still feels very natural, but not too progressive. BMW, they also have some good steering feeling. In most of the vehicles, not in all of them. Sadly, the 3 Series has one of the weirdest steering feelings, whereas this one should have the best one. Yeah, I don't know. And then we also have some other brands which more like Jaguar or Alfa. They have very sporty steerings, very direct and precise, but doesn't give you the most natural feeling. Yeah, so it really depends on. Now we are already at a little higher speed. Let's go back to the RS mode again. And so we are at about 80 kilometers an hour. And then there's the famous sign here on the German motorways where it says, "You can floor it out, babe." And let's go to 80. Let's go. And that's 200, and now we are in this corner here at 200 kilometers an hour, and look at that, how stable the car is on the road. It's really like being on one of the straights on Nürburgring Nordschleife. And this, you know, the air suspension is stiffening a little bit up at higher speeds. It's also lowering itself. I also see it here. I'm in a lower position with the air suspension, ultimately done in the RS mode both, and also when you're driving a little bit faster. Let's check the speed here now. No one's turning up. Wow. I mean, this feels like also noise insulation. How silent it is here still. This feels here like driving a normal vehicle at about 100 kilometers an hour, just that we're going double the speed. 125 miles an hour. Now on the brakes here again, great braking performance, reducing the speed, and once again going on normal motorway cruise again. So this car can really do both, and I really like this with the Audi RS vehicles, whereas AMG, the true AMG models and also the true M models are really very, very stiff, and you lose more comfort. Audi still tries to give you a little bit more balance between sportiness and comfort. So, I mean, the AMG vehicles are amazing, the BMW M vehicles as well, yes. But to me, like the sportiest vehicles, I would meanwhile actually prefer the Audis because you have a little bit more comfort, although you have the top sportiest version. That's of course a matter of philosophy. Some others say like, you know, that's not the real sporty deal, only the BMW M or only the AMG 63 models are the real deal because they are so, you know, stiff and sporty without compromise. I think it's just a matter of preference. The only thing we can do here is prevent these differences to you, actually. So, by the way, if you wonder, the difference in here, flooring it out, the normal, here long-term memory.
It just wants to tear your head off and just fly around corners. It really does love it. I am going to leave it in the sport automatic setting here though and see how it actually reacts around these corners and see if it does some preemptive downshifts on me and stuff. Yeah, the tires, I can definitely feel them leaving me wanting a little bit here as far as grip goes. But that is just the tires, because otherwise...
It's one of the most famous cars in the world and one of the coolest, the 1964 Aston Martin DB5, issued to 007, James Bond, of course. Made famous in such movies as Goldfinger, this car is full of surprises. This particular version is sadly not the real thing. I'd love to have that. Hey, who would win in a battle of Kit from Knight Rider versus this? We'll get to that later. Anyway, this is the 1/24th scale model from the Denbury Mint, which just sounds important. It was sent to the show by our good friend Dean from California. And sadly, in transit, it was attacked by bad guys who shot off the front right mirror. But that's okay, James Bond doesn't use that mirror anyway. As you can see, this car has a lot of details, including all of the cool gadgets installed on this particular Aston Martin DB5 for James Bond. Like machine guns, an ejector seat, bulletproof rear shield, and rotating license plates. The license plate is a little bit hard to rotate, so I'll have to talk to Q about that afterwards. Now, one thing that's really impressive about this car is the paint job. They just nailed the color perfectly. Also, check out the shag carpet on the inside, as well as the ridiculous amount of detail that they put into the interior of this car. I have the roof off, so you can eject somebody out of that ejector seat and then back over them while machine gunning them. This is a very well-crafted, intricate, collectible car. Definitely not a toy. In fact, I actually lost the roof for the day that I shot this. But don't worry, we found it afterwards, just in case James Bond needs to drive somewhere in the rain. Now, one of the cool things here is that this car isn't 1/24th scale 1964 James Bond 007 Aston Martin DB5. Anyway, Kit versus the DB5. I'm going to go with Murray, the talking El Camino.
Recognize the admission of Finland and Sweden to NATO, because we all know that, looking from an historical perspective, NATO members have brought their national issues to the
Automotive magazine, brought to you by Pep Boys. No matter what you drive, Pep Boys has over 27,000 items in stock, virtually any part for any car, with all the name brands you know. Plus service bays staffed with ASE certified technicians. Pep Boys, parts, tires, accessories, service. And by the Duplicolor Truck Bed Coating Kit. Truck bed protection that you can apply yourself with roller brush or spray. It's the rust and impact resistant coating that fits any size bed. Duplicolor Truck Bed Coating Kit. And by
Priceline.com. With Priceline.com, you name your own price for new cars. All makes and models of cars, trucks, sport utility vehicles, minivans, and more. When you log on to Priceline.com, you name your own price.
Your host for Motor Week, John Davis.
Well, hello and welcome again to Motor Week. We're glad to have you with us. For nearly 50 years, it's been this country's favorite and sometimes only homegrown sports car. Formula is still valid. Well, if you want our opinion, you'd better hang on. And we mean hang on tight. The 2001 Chevrolet Corvette Z06 is the most all-out, in-your-face Corvette since the legendary ZR1. Starting with a 385 horsepower pushrod V8 and neck-snapping 0 to 60 acceleration of a mere 4.5 seconds. Now that we have your attention, the Z06 is distinguished from other 2001 Corvette hatchback coupes and convertibles by its hardtop with a trunk body style, new lower fascia with functional air intakes, and working air scoops on the rear rocker panels for improved brake cooling. Plus, the obligatory Z06 badges on the front fenders proclaiming this is the Corvette line's new performance leader. Performance taking its lead from the new LS6 5.7-liter V8. Add to that stump-pulling 385 horsepower, 385 pound-feet of torque. That's an easy 10% gain over last year. Chevy engineers built the LS6 on a heavily modified LS1 block. They then added freer flowing heads and manifolds, a high-profile cam, new pistons, high-flow fuel injectors, and much more, including the auto industry's first mass-produced titanium muffler assembly. All those ponies then gallop through a standard 6-speed manual transmission with a new high-strength clutch. The clutch delivers noticeably smoother feel than before with less pedal effort, and no automatic is available. Beyond the gearbox, a thicker aluminum alloy drive shaft spins the Z06 exclusive wheels and tires. Up front, 17 by 9.5-inch alloys, wearing special 265/40 Goodyear Eagle F1 SC tires, while the huge rear footprint is courtesy of 18 by 10.5-inch rims with 295/35 SCs, and all are ZR speed rated. And once spinning, rocket the Z06 through the quarter mile in 13 seconds flat with a trap speed of 113 miles per hour. Top speed is a blistering 168. The Z06 thunders off the line like a jet, but really kicks in the afterburner at around 5,000 RPM. And all with just the right combination of smooth delivery and rowdy exhaust rumble. What an engine! The original 63 Z06 denoted a race-ready suspension package. The 01's new FE4 suspension is at home on all pavement. It sports a larger front stabilizer bar, stiffer rear leaf spring, and increased negative camber to keep the tire tread flatter during cornering, which, when coupled with the Corvette's active handling system, makes the Z06 stick like superglue, even on the challenging curves of West Virginia's Summit Point Raceway. That traction increase is especially evident in the rear, where oversteer has been drastically reduced. That tremendous traction and the lightning-quick magnetic variable effort steering led one tester to call the Z06 the biggest go-kart that I've ever driven. And when you need to stop, a quartet of 12.6-inch brake disc and standard ABS haul it down from 60 in an average of only 104 feet. Our testers loved the rock-solid feel and plentiful feedback, but thought the pedal feel to be a bit on the soft side. Put through its paces on public roads, the Z06 delivers a firm yet compliant ride. And while not as silent a ride as a Lexus, the Z06 at Speed 06 is a knockout package, one that's exciting and usable. And one that will set you back $47,500 to start. Add the only Z06 option, a 12-disc CD changer, and pay $48,100. Not cheap, but way less than the Porsche 911. Or as our friends at Automobile Magazine said after driving the Z06, it's deeply pleasing to see American automakers doing a job as well as their rivals, but doing it more affordably. So after 50 years as America's favorite homegrown sports car, the 2001 Chevrolet Corvette remains the apex of American high-performance design. And with the rebirth of the Z06, a machine capable of challenging and beating the best the world has to offer.
Bach. Turkey has also played a large role in demining the area after
platform of the alliance whenever any particular topic came to the agenda.
Let's to thank one of our sponsors, Farmers Insurance.
I've seen this movie before.
You have?
Sure. This is the part where all is lost and the hero searches for hope. Then a mysterious figure reminds her that she has the Farmer's Home Policy Perk guaranteed replacement cost, and that her home will be rebuilt regardless of her limits or if the cost of materials has gone up.
That's really something.
Get a whole lot of something with Farmer's Policy Perks. Wait, I didn't ruin the ending, did I?
Yeah, you did.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.